Hey guys, it's Lance at Mac Sound Solutions, and I know it's tempting to want to crack open your Mini and put one of these third-party SSDs in it. But maybe that's not the best way to go. For example, this one YouTuber was doing the install and oops, he broke the power button connector. So obviously there's a little risk involved to doing the install, and they are third-party, pretty much unknown company SSDs that you have to buy them on eBay, Amazon, or AliExpress. And you will save money on the Apple tax, but today I'm going to show you an alternative so you don't have to necessarily crack open that Mini. And also for folks who have their internal HD completely clogged up, they have no room to grow, and this works for any Mac, not just the Mac Mini. So I'm going to show you how to get a lot of your data onto an external drive. Let's just call it expanding your internal user account to as much storage as you want or need. So in my other videos, I show you how to move the whole home folder onto an external drive, but there are some downsides to that, and that might not work for everybody. I've been doing it with my Mac Mini. I have my home folder on an external SSD, and it works great for me. All I use my Mac Mini for is video editing, and I'm doing everything off that external drive, and my iCloud drive, everything is on the external drive. But one of the issues is with iCloud drive, Spotlight can't index it. So what we're going to do is set up a new SSD and copy our downloads, movies, music, and pictures from our internal Macintosh HD to the external drive. And then we'll create symbolic links that will live inside our user account folder on the Macintosh HD. And we're going to add an external applications folder to store some of our larger apps, saving even more internal space. And this is definitely a little more complicated and an alternative method to just setting your Photos app or your Music app to store their libraries on external drives, which of course you can just do that. But this is storing multiple user folders and everything that's in them on an external drive, and some of the bigger applications. So you will always need to have this SSD connected to your Mac, and I'm going to talk about what happens if it isn't connected. Okay, let's get to it. And of course you should have a full Time Machine backup or whatever you use to back up your data of your Macintosh HD. All your data should be backed up before attempting this, and you'll need a dedicated SSD to put your data on. And I recommend the Zyke drive or the Acasis enclosures. They're both great. I'm going to be using the Zyke drive, which has a 2 terabyte NVMe, but you can go all the way up to 8 terabytes if you want to. Links for the enclosures and the NVMe's in the video description. So you want to format your SSD in APFS before you move forward. So we're going to launch Disk Utility, and then we're going to go to our Zyke drive, hit Erase, and then select APFS in the Format window. And if you're worried about your sensitive data being stolen because somebody could just walk off with your drive and access your data, you can encrypt your drive in APFS encrypted. So you can select that in the drop-down menu. But for me in the demo, I'm just going unencrypted. So give your drive a name and hit Erase. And I did try encrypting the drive with this whole setup, and I had no issues. So first I'm going to open up the Macintosh HD, and we're going to go look at our user account. Lance McVicker, that's my main user account home folder, and there are the folders we're going to copy: downloads, movies, music, and pictures. And we're not going to mess with desktop, documents, library, or public. And now we're going to open up our Zyke drive, and we're going to create a new folder on it called Lance McVicker. So it's the same as my internal user account name. They are identical. And that's where we're going to be copying our user data. And then I'm going to create a second folder called Symlinks. And that is where we're going to build our Symlinks that will later go into the internal user folder, replacing the originals. Okay, and our next step is to copy our data to the Lance McVicker folder on the external Zyke drive. And we're going to use terminal and the rsync command. And if you're not familiar with terminal, don't be scared of it. It's a good tool. So it's just another application in your utilities folder. In Launchpad, it's located under Other, and on the Macintosh HD, it's located in your Applications Utilities folder. I like to keep it in my dock, so you can just drag it in for easy access. So we're going to launch terminal and we're going to copy paste our command. And I put the command in the video description so you can just go grab it and copy and paste it in the terminal window. So after you've pasted the command, click the right arrow on your keyboard and then hit the space bar once, because you need a space between the word pictures and the path to your external drive. Because now we're going to drag in the folder Lance McVicker on the Zyke drive, and this is where our data is going to get copied to. So that's our destination. The first part of the command is telling it we're going to be copying the data. The second part of the command is telling it where to put the data. If you don't have the space between pictures and volumes and you go and hit enter to copy your data, you're going to get an error and you just got to start over. And now just make sure you select the terminal window so it's in front and hit return on your keyboard. And there it goes. You can see the folders are populating and the data is getting copied. And of course it'll depend on how much data you have in your folders as to how long this will take. But you'll see when it's done. I'm just going to fast forward through this. And there we are, we're done. And you'll know when it's done because it's going to show your username and your device at the bottom of the list there. And it's always a good idea to double check the amount of data on each folder that is on the internal drive matches the same amount of data that's on the external drive. Okay, so the next step is to create our Symlinks of the folders we copied. So I'm going to open two different windows from the Zyke drive. The one on the left is the Lance McVicker folder with all of our copied data, and the window on the right is where our Symlinks folder is. It's best to be in list view because then we can click the little arrow and we'll watch our Symlinks get populated into the Symlinks folder on the Zyke drive. So now we're going to launch terminal again. And we type in the simple command ln spacebar -s spacebar. And now to create the Symlink, we're going to drag and drop the downloads folder into the terminal window, just like that. And then we're going to grab our Symlinks folder and drag that into the terminal window. And then hit enter. And there it is. Our first Symlink has been created. So we're just going to repeat the process for the remaining three folders. We type ln-s, drag in the movies, drag in the Symlinks folder, and then hit enter, and our next Symlink will appear. And we're just going to keep doing it. And I've copy pasted the Symlinks command, making sure I have that space bar after the S, and I drag in the folder and I drag in the Symlinks folder, hit enter. You're getting the picture. There it is, music. And if you get an error, it probably means you don't have it typed correctly or you forgot to hit the space bar after the S. Just retype it and you should be good to go. And there we go, we've created all four Symlinks. And we're not doing the documents because the documents is very tied to Mac OS. And I did try it, but it opened up a world of pain. So now I double clicked on the pictures Symlink and it takes me to the parent picture folder. And that's what Symlinks do, they're just pointers. And while they're like aliases, they are more system bound. And Symlinks look like regular folders, except they have that little curved black arrow showing that it's actually pointing to a different location. Next, we're going to create a backup administrator user account. So you go to System Settings, Users and Groups, click on Add User, and then make sure to set it to be an administrator. Then we'll put in the backup name. I just call it backup, but it's basically just another user account. It takes up no space at all. And it's good to have a backup user account. If something goes wrong with the other user, you can always log into your backup account if needed. And we just put in our password and hit create user. And now we're going to restart the computer and log into our backup user account. And we need this backup user account so we can delete our old data folders in the other account, the main user account, because you can't delete user folders when you're logged into that user account. And then we'll copy our Symlinks into the Lance McVicker folder on the Macintosh HD. So we'll reboot and log into the backup user account. Okay, and yes, I've been doing this whole process with my MacBook Air because I like my Mac Mini setup. I didn't want to mess around with it. So Once you log into the backup user account, you have to go through the usual quick prompts that Apple gives you. You don't want to log into your Apple account, so skip that, because our main user account on our Macintosh HD is already logged into our Apple account. Basically, you can just skip through all these things, don't set them up, just hit set up later, so you can quickly get into your backup user account. And that's the last step. And now welcome to Mac. So we are now logging in to our internal backup user account. And we just click continue. And now we're going to go into our Macintosh HD users and go to our original Lance McVicker user account. And we're going to delete the data that we have now moved to the external drive. So leaving the documents alone, we're going to delete downloads, movies, music, and pictures, and free up a bunch of space on our internal Macintosh HD. And we empty the trash. Now the last thing we have to do here is copy our Symlinks from our Zyke drive, our external SSD, into the Lance McVicker internal user folder. And when it asks you for your username and password, you should use your original user account name and password. That will keep the disk permissions the way they should be for the Symlinks. And the Symlinks are now copied to the Lance McVicker internal user account. So now we're going to log out of the backup user account and log into our main account, Lance McVicker. Sorry for the shaky cam, but I had to just film this part. I'm logging in to our internal Lance McVicker user account where the Symlinks are now, and bingo, no errors, no nothing, we're just in. Like nothing has changed, but now we've freed up all the space on our internal drive and have all this extra external storage for our user data. And I'm just going to show you a little demo of how the Symlinks work. So we're going to go to our Lance McVicker on the Macintosh HD. There's our Symlink. I'm going to double click on downloads. And there you can see it opened the folder and brought us to the Zyke drive where they're stored. So Symlinks are just pointers to their parent folder. There's our movies on the Zyke drive. There's our music on the Zyke drive, and our pictures also on the Zyke drive. So those folders on the internal drive, these Symlinks are just pointers to the external drive. And all the data for the downloads, movies, music, and pictures is stored on the Zyke drive going forward. So we've basically expanded our internal storage, and yes, I know it's an external drive, but it's sort of an extension of our internal drive, right? And, you know, with a Mac Mini, if you go replace that internal drive with a new drive, the drive that you remove is basically useless. But here we're keeping the internal storage and adding more storage. And the sky's the limit. You can expand it to up to 8 terabytes if you wanted to. No need to crack open your Mac Mini and install a new drive and risk your warranty, etc., or damaging the computer. So let's talk about your photo library for a little bit, because that is obviously a big part of this and what eats up a lot of your internal hard drive space. We've now moved our whole photo library to the external drive. And because we moved it, we now have to set it to be used as the system photo library. So we're going to go to the Photos app system settings, and you can see the path showing where our library is, the Zyke drive, Lance McVicker, pictures, and the photo library. So you want to click on Use as System Photo Library. And then this message pops up, switching the system photo library will turn off iCloud photos. Any photos and videos that have not been fully downloaded will be removed from this Mac, and shared albums will be disabled. Turn on iCloud photos for this new system photo library in settings. So once the system photos library is set, we're going to go over to our iCloud settings and turn on iCloud photos. And you just want to set up iCloud the way you want it, and then you're done with the Photos app. Okay, so now we're going to talk about applications. We're going to open up the Zyke drive, and then we're going to go to the App Store, and we're going to go to Settings, and then we're going to tell it to download apps larger than 1 gig to our external drive. So I went in there and I selected the Zyke drive, and now I'm going to download, just for instance, Hello Kitty, which is a game which I know is bigger than 1 gig. So we're going to quickly download that, and you'll see what happens. When I hit get, it's going to create the applications folder. There it is. Now you can just create this folder yourself and Apple will know that it's already there. But the point is, it has to be on the root directory of the drive. It can't be inside some other folder. Otherwise, Apple's going to create the applications folder for you and put the app inside the applications folder. Okay, so it's done downloading, and there it is, Hello Kitty, on our external applications folder. And we're going to go look at Launchpad, and we're going to go to the games area, and there's no Hello Kitty. So what do we do about that? All we have to do is drag Hello Kitty on top of the Launchpad. You're not going to see it do anything. You just got to kind of get it centered there. And we're not putting it in the dock. We want it to show up in Launchpad, and there it is. So you just got to drag it onto Launchpad and let go, and then it's going to create that link for you in Launchpad. Now I'm going to drag over Final Cut, which I already had installed on my internal drive before I set up this external drive, right? So I'm just going to copy it over, and then I'm going to delete it from the internal drive. And just so you know, Apple has certain apps that are system apps like Messages, Mail, Safari. You cannot move those to the external drive, and they don't take up any space really. They're very small. But any apps that you downloaded from the App Store, literally any of those, GarageBand for instance, you can move to the external drive. So any non-Apple system apps that are downloaded from the App Store apps can all live on the external drive. So now that Final Cut's done copying, I'm going to delete it from the internal drive, saving me about 7 gigs of space. And now we have to do the same thing for Launchpad with Final Cut, because once you delete an app, it's no longer going to be in the Launchpad. So we're just going to go to Final Cut on the external drive and drag it into the Launchpad icon in the dock. And it's going to create a new link to the app in Launchpad. And there it is. And just so you know, macOS is smart. When you go to update your applications, it's going to update it in the location that it's in. It's not going to reinstall it on the internal drive. And there are absolutely apps that you cannot move to the external drive, like Pro Tools, for instance. Pro Tools is installed for all users, and it has to live on the internal drive. And there's a lot of apps like that that have to live on the internal drive. You just got to kind of go through them and figure out which ones can and which ones can't. I also have a video showing you how to get all your plugins and virtual instruments off your internal drive and onto the external drive, as they can take up a lot of space. So check that out. The Photos app is also one of Apple's system applications. You cannot copy it to the external drive. When you do try to do that, it just creates an alias, which is a pointer, kind of like a Symlink, to the internal applications folder. So you can launch Photos app from the external applications folder, but you did not copy the application. So I just leave these system apps alone. I don't bother making aliases. I just keep them on the internal drive. They take up very little space. So now I'm going to do the test of removing the Zyke drive so it's not actually connected to the computer, and I'm going to boot it up and see what happens. Will we still be able to log into our internal user account? Let's find out. And wow, we logged right in. So because the iPhone was out of focus, I switched to doing a screen capture, but same scenario, the drive is not connected. And we're going to go see what happens. And when I go to open downloads, of course, it's not going to work because the parent folder that's on the external drive is no longer findable by the Simlink. So same goes for all of the folders. But what's cool is I can still log into the account. I'm not locked out of the computer. So I'm going to shut down and reconnect the Zyke drive. So we'll go to our user account, and I'm going to try and open the downloads folder. There it is. There's our stuff. Go to the movies. Everything's just working again because the drive is reconnected. It didn't really cause any issues. Okay guys, that's basically going to wrap it up. I mean, this video, I don't know why it took me forever to make it because I ran into the issue with the documents folder. I originally tried to include the documents with the other 4 folders and it just opened up a world of pain and I could not get it to work properly. The Symlink didn't work. Then I tried an alias, that didn't work. So don't try and get your documents folder to run on an external drive. Now, if you move your entire home folder like I show in my other videos, it works that way because everything is located in one place. But with a Symlink method, that does not work with the documents folder. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I hope this helped you out. Get some of that data off your Macintosh HD. And if you liked the video, please give me that thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you on the next Mac Sound Solutions video.